Hello, I'm your host, Peter Komendowski, and welcome to Surviving Bad, where we explore stories of survival, hope, and inspiration. Today, we're joined by a couple of doctors, Tom and Noreen, who also happen to be a couple, to talk about a world where information, experience, and expectations seem as hard as ever to understand. They're here to share a view of the world as doctors concerned for the well-being of our children and their future. Welcome to the show. Tom, starting with you, why don't you introduce yourself and talk about why we're here today?
So Tom Benzoni, I'm an ER doc in the Des Moines area. And, I realized the other day I graduated from medical school 40 years ago this year. So it's been a long time and seen a lot of things happen a couple of times. So when I originally trained, we trained in the Detroit area and I saw black tar heroin come in. So, when I saw fentanyl come back in, it was like, this is an old friend, old nemesis. Basically, I'm just seeing now life cycles occur again and again.
And Noreen?
This is the boss.
Hi, I'm Noreen O'Shea, and we've been married about as long as he graduated medical school ago. And we we have shared a passion for medicine and for taking care of our patients. And when we come home from me being at the clinic, Tom being in an emergency room, we talk about the kinds of things we see, how many more patients with substance abuse problems, or for, I tend to see a lot of patients who have some mental health problems, or I also work at a free clinic. So I'm seeing people who can't seem to get access in the usual system. So we talk about those types of problems and try to come up with solutions. We don't always have good solutions, but
she's being charitable. I usually am coming home complaining.
Well, now what we've seen, and Tom, you've been on the show before and been a wonderful advocate for managing risks. And being more aware of what's happening out there. But we're again looking at a world that's rapidly changing. We're looking at a disassociation of our youth from adult messaging systems. They're in their own social media worlds. But when the reality of a clinic visit or an emergency room visit sits in, that's sort of the great equalizer. It doesn't matter where you got your info. If it led you to something really dangerous, well, the consequences aren't so good. What are some of the risks you're starting to see more often out there?
Well, Peter, there's a lot of them. They can cover a spectrum. One of the biggest risks I'm seeing lately, the last 5 years-ish, is the adults are decompensating. Now, it's interesting to me because I'll have I had a child brought to the ER the other day, early teens, age is unimportant. Other fact, it wasn't, it was below the age of 15, was brought there. And the complaint from the parent was, he's fighting with his sister. Okay. And I mean, okay. And I didn't go into a lot of detail what the fight was about. And, brothers and sisters shouldn't fight and all that kind of stuff. But I'm seeing the parents are apparently so stressed out that what we may regard as the normal things that kids do, the parents can't cope with it anymore. Of course, then they bring them to me, and my head scratching, having raised, we've raised 4 kids, is okay. This is a question I've started to ask lately. What is your expectation? What would you like me to do today? What would be an ideal outcome? And the answers are absolutely fascinating.
When you talk about that in terms of taking responsibility for why somebody is there, is that counter to the idea that, patients are walking in demanding stuff from doctors, or is this a different kind of common sense?
I think that there's, well, first of all, I think in multiple different facets at the same time. I think part of it is the parents are asking me to fix their lives. And I don't think that's a whole lot different than someone coming in and saying, I don't have a good relationship with my girlfriend or my wife, fix me. Or I need to get some relief from the stress of daily life. I want some drugs. I think it's a spectrum of the same disorder. expecting the world to work perfectly. And some people, the world just doesn't work for.
You know, we've been seeing some feedback from different guests on the show and some of the research we do that there's been less and less parents taking the initiative to put kids into treatment for drugs, especially the marijuana treatment, where they've normalized that behavior. So now they're looking at, well, my child is this, that, and the other, but the marijuana use is not the problem. That's normal. All kids experiment. But in essence, this experimentation that kids do, especially we talked about new animal tranquilizers, the fentanyl stuff, the counterfeit pills that are out there that are mimicking prescribed medications. All of these are new risk factors that are sort of exploding out there with a whole new younger generation of users. Are you seeing a lot of that in the clinic and the emergency room?
What are you seeing? Tell me, Matt.
So I work at an underserved clinic. And so what I'm seeing is the entire family is stressed and financially, they don't have the extended family in support. And so much of that has happened since the pandemic. They've been away from elder family members or extended family. And there's things that were available to us or to our kids as things that we might have experimented with that were way less toxic, long-term toxicity than what's available now. For example, if alcohol was easily available to either our kids or us, you'd probably start throwing up before you had any really bad thing that would happen from the alcohol intake. But when I'm thinking of the narcotics that are available to our youth right now, they're really deadly. If you don't die from it, there's some long-term consequences. So that's what scares me.
Well, we're going to take a short break now. We're going to come back and continue our conversation with Drs. Thomas Benzoni and Noreen O'Shea. Stay tuned. You don't want to miss this.
The black truck? Hey, Christina from accounting.
Yeah, hi.
Hey, I used to date a girl named Christina.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then she dumped me for my best friend. You want to see some photos of them that I took?
I don't.
I thought we talked about this, buddy.
Buzz and overshared again?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna call a car.
That's a smart idea.
So yeah, I know, that's why I did it.
Hey, you're gonna get back to the top of the mountain.
Does that mean I'm gonna get back with Christina?
No.
Oh.
No.
Welcome back to Surviving Bad. I'm your host, Peter Komendowski, and we're talking with Drs. Thomas Benzoni and Noreen O'Shea, about the world we live in and the confusing landscape of high-risk behavior, which is something they have a lot of experience in as doctors. Noreen, starting with you, what are some of the issues that you see that have really changed in the last few years that have created a disconnect between, say, parents and children?
Wow. Again, I do have to fault the pandemic and the shutdown of the pandemic to some extent. I think suddenly parents were being teachers and children, or excuse me, being parents and teachers and trying to make a living at home as well. So they were wearing three hats and only having the support for one of those.
I've looked at some research that identified school performance, mental health issues, suicide ideation. And we've been quick in this culture to blame COVID but what I've learned is that many of those patterns started over 10 years ago, but COVID was sort of an accelerator that really we were trending towards the evolution of these problems, but with COVID, it got sort of a jump start into the bad part of it all. Knowing that,
Yeah.
and that maybe COVID did us some favor exposing this direction that we're going in a way that got more engagement from public health and other people. What steps do you think can be taken to sort of mitigate some of these high-risk behaviors that bring people into the emergency rooms and the clinics?
Certainly, the role of a family doc, a pediatrician, can certainly be to help the family normalize what is normal, what the normal progress of development is for a child and a youth, and to say, yes, it is normal to be talked back at a little bit, or to be experimenting with a few things, but make those things that are safe, that are helpful. I like to tell parents when I'm doing sports physicals on them, and that's a great time to talk to both the parent and the child at the same time. I say, your child's brain is growing at the fastest it has grown since this child was 2 years of age, and now this one's 12 or 14. You will hardwire what you do frequently. So mom, dad, and little Joey, hey, what things do you love to do? Let's get some more opportunities to do the music, to play the sport, to be interested in robotics or whatever is available. That's what the family can do. And then I would hope that the educational system can also offer a little bit of that. Not just want to put too many burdens on the educational system, but kind of whatever the wraparound services that they can get within the educational system, within their churches, within their neighborhoods as well.
Tom, for you, I'm going to do some of these, cycle through some of these issues rather quickly. The increase in anxiety and depression, things like ADHD, attention deficit. There's some neurophysiologists that are starting to say, we can't look at these things as just being an aberration because such a high percentage of our population now, quote unquote, has these issues that it's almost normalized. It's like if you're human, 1 out of 10 people or more is going to have attention deficit. 2 out of 10 are going to suffer from anxiety and depression. And as opposed to being necessarily illnesses that can be treated, it's looking as if they're becoming a norm for a percentage of our population. What are your thoughts on that?
Once again, in multiple different facets of ways to think about it, as we've gone from a system, well, what we're doing right now, Zoom. This is weird. Ordinarily, we'd be in a room talking to each other. I'm sitting here with a glass of water. I would have gotten you a glass of water. These normal human interactions we've done away with. We've roboticized to now you are pixels on a screen.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is our interaction.
It's fine, maybe, when you're doing that as an adult. But just like Noreen was saying, what if that's the way that you were raised? What if from the time you were 2 years old, your people were on a screen and everything you interacted with was on the screen? And if the man on the screen died, well, you just push the reset button and start over. That eventually becomes a reality. I think that kids can be wired that way. And I don't want to, become the people, you can't have phones and all that kind of stuff anymore. But I think we were kind of mean parents, and our kids didn't get a phone till they were 14, 16, something like that. And I think that as we begin to normalize this with kids, you have to understand that actions have consequences. And we need to think through the consequences of what we're doing and see, can you accept them?
Well, we're going to take a short break, and afterwards, we're going to ask Tom and Noreen to share their view of the little things, seemingly small changes in behavior, which can make a world of difference in people's lives. Stay tuned. You don't want to miss this.
Multiple studies have shown that marijuana can slow both driver reaction and response time, which can be really dangerous. He's here. He's here. Wait. What? I can't drive. Why? I'm high. Oh.
Not all internet is priced this good. Switch to Extreme and go super fast for as low as $19.99 a month for a year. Oh yeah, hook up your home with powerful Wi-Fi, 99.99% reliability, and speeds that are FCC proven to be faster than advertised. Not all internet is priced this good. Switch today and get speeds starting at 100 meg for as low as $19.99 a month for a year. Call 844-EXTREME2 for details.
Welcome back to Surviving Dad. We're talking with Tom and Noreen about drugs, medicines, high-risk behaviors, and their ideas on wellness and the future. Noreen, give us a little bit of your thoughts about how this world is changing and evolving.
Well, again, we have to think about all the things that are happening in our worlds. We even need to think about how many of each generation are available to our kids. So do we have the generations of family members that they can rely on, that they can run back to? Is grandma still living on the farm? Is grandpa still, taking care of the farm? And can they go run around free in that setting? So that's one, I think the way our generations are separated is an issue. At the same time, what I think respect for each other, civility has always been a problem. One generation will complain about how rude the next generation is, but I think if we role model civility, saying thank you, how generous of you to do that for me. And go shovel the neighbor's walk, even if they didn't ask you for it. That certainly models things, and their kids will see it, and they'll hopefully pay it forward.
Tom, we sort of see the dynamic here where Noreen gets that full family clinic experience, but then you're under the sort of the duress of an emergency situation where there's probably more urgency in general than there is time for expanding the circle of compassion. How do you deal with that in the emergency setting?
Well, Peter, there's a couple of different ways. First of all, just strictly on a personal basis, and this will sound a little snarky, but understand it's partly survival. At the end of the day, I go home, you don't. So to survive in this job, you have to have a clear separation to remain healthy, which I'll assume that I am. But then I also, and this is just personal habit, I use what you see obvious on the screen in front of you, old white male privilege. I can say things that younger people can't. So when a parent's sitting there under duress, yes, that is hard. And I can talk to them about being a parent. I can say, I'm supposed to leave the dad out of the room. I'm not going to. I'm going to bring them in and tell them my dad thoughts. Because with that, you can often let them see they're not alone in worrying about their kid, but they haven't been through this before. One of the things that I see, Noreen was talking about the breakdown of, I think basically the breakdown of the nuclear family. One of the things that I see the greatest sources of stress for people that is, to me, relatively speaking, new, is the breakdown of the community. People are coming to me and telling, well, not just me, my nurses, staff, et cetera, but I'll use the first person, me. People are coming and having me be their father confessor, doing what you would have done over the backyard fence. You perhaps would have gone to church and talked to your pastor about, you would have gone to the coffee shop and sat around with the guys and, had an old cup of coffee in a big ceramic mug just to talk about things and get through them. Children that are, the children are so precious. And this isn't negative to taking care of your children. I got that. And I ride a bike and I wear a helmet and all that stuff. So kids ride a bike, for God's sakes, wear a helmet. But a child will learn nothing, will learn the most about physics by falling off a bike. They'll learn about physics and the world by going outside. Go outside and get dirty. It's okay. You'll survive and you will learn. A kid doesn't need to be amused all the time by a phone. Give him a book. A kid will delve into a book and be lost for hours if given the chance to do that.
Well, that's an interesting aspect. Nature has been a real powerful healer, as many people have pointed out. We're going to take a look at a little shift here. Obviously, a large percentage of our young population is suffering from obesity and poor health, things like type 2 diabetes. And there's a powerful correlation to the fact that kids are getting out less and less. And we hear this dialogue, but I just did a kids seminar, and one of the first things some of the kids brought up to me was, but my parents don't go out. You know, that kids will do what their parents lead them to. And is this something you're seeing when you interact with parents in the healthcare setting, that you can address those issues?
All right. And this is one of my passions. I actually, because I teach at a medical school, I teach a course on preventive medicine and nutrition, and I carry that over to when I'm seeing patients in the clinic too. So I talk to parents to say, you have to role model it. And to start with, if Jimmy is going to go and play soccer, and you wanted to learn to play soccer and learn that skill set and be on a team, all good things, don't sit in your car waiting for the soccer practice to get done. Walk around the field, or volunteer to be one of the little referees that says, ball in or ball out, whatever. So walk around the field, talk to the other parents. It's a way to build a community as well. So I tell them start with one thing. Next soccer practice, do you think you can go ahead and walk around for 10 minutes?
Well, I think I want to continue that train of thought when we take a short break here and ask you both to share some final comments, insights, and inspiration, things you can share with parents, just like you were doing now, Noreen. See you all after the break.
Today, more than ever, you need fast, reliable internet. At Mediacom, we want you to know you can count on us. Our fiber-powered 100% gigabit technology network was built for the future. We have enormous capacity and power and 99.99% network reliability. So even though these are uncertain times, we're prepared. And you can be certain we'll keep your world connected.
You told me not to talk to strangers. You told me not to cross the street without looking both ways.
You told me not to touch the stove.
You told me not to do drugs.
You told me not to drink and drive.
You gave me so many messages about how to stay safe. Why didn't you keep me safe by properly storing your gun?
Welcome back. Today on Surviving Bad, we're talking about the world we live in and the confusing landscape of high-risk interactions, that have a powerful influence on human behavior and wellness. Let's see what insights, advice, and inspiration Tom and Noreen have to share. Noreen, let's start with you.
Well, I teach preventive medicine and nutrition at a local medical school. And one of the things I try to inspire my medical students is to do shared decision-making with their patients as they're approaching their patients. What matters to you as a patient? And then build on their strengths. Use a strength-based approach to the patient. Don't shame them. Say, you're great. Let's make you even better. Tom, what do you do?
One of the greatest values that I see is the question of ownership. So just by way of example, if you have diabetes and I'm responsible for it, it can't be successful in controlling your diabetes. So it's basically figuring out who owns, well, first of all, what's the issue? Make sure the issue is properly described. And then who owns that issue? Understanding that the ownership and the consequences go together. So by giving the power back to the patient, saying, here's where you are, that has to be accurate. Here's where you are. Here are some things that you can do to help yourself to be better. Now, that's kind of disempowering to me, but at this stage, I don't need power. It's your body. You do with it as you will. Because
Now, if you were talking to a middle school classroom or kids between 5th and 8th grade, what advice would you share with them?
this is a question I pretty much routinely ask that age group. As we get toward the end of the interview, I say, you're in the ER, I hear a lot of weird things. I want to hear, even if it's weird, what is it that you want to be when you grow up? And I do that, I shut up and I sit down. And some of these kids, okay, they mean, I don't know if they would achieve it or not. Some of these kids had absolutely beautiful dreams. Figure out how to help them achieve that.
And Noreen, your thoughts?
Yeah, so I have, in part of my life in the past, I have talked to 5th grade and 6th grade classrooms. And so just, and we talk, it was a topic called body science. We told them what great scientists they were and that their bodies are healthy, and to enjoy what they're learning about the body as it changes. So definitely in that 5th grade to 8th grade group, you've got some wonderful things that are happening. Stay healthy. Here's how to stay healthy. And I want to know about your dreams too, and how we can make those dreams get better, be realized.
Do you have hope for, judging by all the things that we talked about that are sort of evolving in a not a great way, do you have hope for the future for our children?
Hell yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. They are resilient. Our kids are resilient. And yes, if I would tell anything to their parents, it's like, relax a little bit. You will do fine.
That's a great way to end the interview today. Thank you both for being here. And thank you all for joining us and watching. Check out our website, ahealthyiowa.org, and keep your eye on Mediacom MC22 for our next episode of Surviving Bad, where we explore stories of survival, hope, and inspiration. On Mediacom MC22, your local programming leader.